This video is about the interrogative pronouns, in Greek, tis and ti. Interrogative pronoun means, let's take the first part, pronoun. A pronoun is a word that stands in the place of a noun. So an example English sentence with two nouns is Melissa likes ice cream. An example sentence with two pronouns is she eats it every day. Note that the noun to which the pronoun refers back is called the antecedent. So the antecedent of she is Melissa, and the antecedent of ice cream is it. It refers back to ice cream. Back to our phrase interrogative pronouns. The interrogative part means that the pronoun asks a question, as in English, who is there? Or what do you want? Let's look at the form for the Greek interrogative pronoun. When you are referring to people, in English you use who, whose, or whom. In Greek, this is the masculine and feminine version of the pronoun. The two genders have identical forms. So here are our regular cases, and the Greek forms for the masculine and feminine interrogative pronoun are tis, tinos, tini, tina, tines, tinon, tisi, and tinas. When you are referring to things, in English you use the word what. In Greek, you use the neuter form of the interrogative pronoun. Those forms are ti, tinos, tini, ti, tina in the nominative plural. Unfortunately, note that the neuter nominative plural form is identical to the masculine and feminine accusative singular. You can tell the difference by context. The rest of the forms are tinon, tisi, and tina. But what you really want to know, I bet, is not this part, the next slide. This part says that the interrogative pronoun is the one that has the accent on the first syllable. The indefinite pronoun has the exact same spelling, but the indefinite pronoun will have either no accent on single syllable words, or it will have the accent on the second syllable of two syllable words. This is because the indefinite pronoun is an enclitic. But now on to the part you really want to know, which is how in the world do we translate the interrogative pronouns. So let's use the masculine and feminine, who, whose, and whom, and we'll look at the different cases. For Greek nominative case, you can translate it with the English who. The English whose is a nice translation of the Greek genitive case, and the English whom is a translation of the Greek dative and accusative cases. Let's look at an example in each case. For nominative, ekopsa, ekopsa, answer tis paresti, translates to knock knock, other person, who is there. Tis is the nominative, who is the English nominative. This is how you express the subject of the sentence in English, who is there. An example in the genitive case is ede tinos grami esti, which translates to whose line is it anyway? The subject of the sentence is grami, or line, and tinos is the genitive, whose. An example with the dative is tini meles trechein, which translates to whom are you going to run? Of course, nobody in English actually talks that way. The vernacular English translation of this would be, who you gonna run to? Whether you use the formal English translation or the vernacular, in both cases the subject is you, as in the Greek sentence, unexpressed subject of meles, and the dative is the indirect object. In Greek it's tini, dative. In English you either express that as to whom, or if you want to use the informal vernacular English, it's going to sound like who. But notice in this informal translation, who you gonna run to, you is still the subject and who is still the indirect object. Also note that some Greek verbs, usually deponent, happen to take the dative case. Instead of an accusative direct object, they are followed by a dative. So an example is tini, hegeste, hepeste, or peseste. I've given you 3 different sample verbs. You can translate these as whom do you lead / follow / obey. And again, native English speakers rarely use whom anymore, so you will probably hear this as who do you lead / follow / obey. Whether you use whom or who, note that in both English sentences, as in the Greek, the subject is you. This time the Greek shows us that it is you plural. And the dative, whether you use whom or who, is for the English sentences the direct object. For the Greek sentence, it's the dative with special verb in place of where you might expect a normal accusative direct object. So whom do you lead or who do you lead? Whom and who are still the direct object of those English sentences, whichever one you use. Lastly, the accusative case, tina, or if we want to do plural, tinas meles kalein, translates to whom are you going to call? Again, this is not the vernacular English. Vernacular English is obviously who you're going to call. In both of those sentences, the English sentences, you is the subject, and whether you use whom or who, those are the direct object of the English sentences, and that is also the direct object of the Greek sentence. And then, the answer to the question is obviously Ghostbusters. The end.